Welcome to Inventive Instruction. Today's lesson is going to focus on critical thinking versus analytical thinking. In this video, we're going to argue that there is a correct way to be analyzing your text for your English class in order to ensure that you're not imposing a reading or making incorrect assumptions. When you're looking at a text with a critical method, you start with a topic that's perhaps given to you by your teacher or a topic that you receive for a writing assignment or exam. From this topic, we have a question that we must ask ourselves when it comes to the text. And thinking critically, you then come up with an answer to that question. Gather your proof from the text itself and write your essay critically. Looking at this method, it's easy to see how in step 3, you are already examining the text through a closed-minded lens, and that this, afterward, affects everything else that you see. The trickle-down effect caused by the closed-minded lens is the reason that thinking critically doesn't work in English analysis. It causes you to be looking for something while you analyze, meaning you can impose a reading, misinterpret evidence, and provide insubstantial proof in your essay. The critical thinking route skips the analysis stage completely and goes straight to gathering proof. Again, this means your reading is filtered, but it also marks a crucial difference between good and bad writing in English language arts. Bad writing in English is an interpretation, and good writing in English is an analysis. Let's have a look at what happens if you look at the text analytically instead. Analytically, you start with the same given topic. You have your question about the text that you must answer. And from there, you then analyze the text through an open-minded lens, looking for what you can find in perhaps the difference between an implicit and explicit reading. From there, after your analysis, you come up with your answer, and continue to then gather proof and write your essay analytically. You can see, starting with an open-minded lens, you have a very crucial step between where you come up with your answer and from there, look through a lens. Here are some other things to remember. You are like a lawyer when you're writing. Your objective is to make it as difficult as possible for someone to prove you wrong. The judge is not interested in whether you think someone is guilty or innocent, or whether you're arguing for or against something. The judge wants to see the evidence, but even more importantly, the analysis of that evidence toward proving your case. And so, when you write in English, the professor is interested in your conclusion about a text, yes. But much more important are the things you see and the way you read the things you see, which lead you to this particular conclusion. Here is another chart that might help for those of you who are following with the guide. A theory-down analysis is another way of saying critical analysis. This means you start with your theory and move downward to looking at the text. This imposes a reading and conditions what you look at, which is good in science class, for example, when you need to start with a hypothesis, but it's very bad in language arts. The opposite to this type of reading is a text-up reading, another way of saying analytical. Here, you start with the text and then move downward into your theory. This is strong. It works because it decides what the important moments and elements are, and then searches for evidence as to why these are important, rather than theorizing or guessing. So, always keep in mind, if your professor is able to make a strong case against you, it means that you may have a theory and evidence in your essay, but it lacks analysis. If you say, "This evidence proves this point," someone can reply, "Well, it can also prove this point." If you say, "This evidence suggests A, B, and C, leading to the conclusion that blank. This analysis proves this point." Now you've presented a much stronger argument. As a teacher, my favorite analogy to use when talking about essay writing is the analogy of the lawyer in the courtroom. Let's use this example and this dialogue that you'll see soon to help you understand. Looking at things critically in the courtroom versus analytically is what this next dialogue is going to look like. In this case, the student is accused of vandalizing school property. Let's see what happens if you do this critically. The suspect is guilty of the crime because of the paint found on his clothing. Yes, but the defendant also released the suspect's statement that he was in an art class earlier that day, and this is where the paint came from. Oh, well, the suspect was also absent during the school period when the crime is supposed to have taken place. Other students, as witnesses, confirmed his absence. Yes, but the defendant released another statement in which the student claims he was at a dental appointment and provided a doctor's note. Yes, but he's guilty. Well, you can't prove it. This, as you can see, is a very weak way of trying to make a case. Let's see what happens when the lawyer looks at things analytically and provides evidence. The suspect is guilty of the crime because of the paint found on his clothing. Following the suspect's first statement, the evidence has been closely examined, and it is confirmed that the paint is not in fact that of an oil base used in his art class, but is an acrylic-based aerosol paint. This proves that this evidence does not match the witness statement, and he did not get the paint on him during art class. Furthermore, the suspect was also absent during one school period that day, as several witnesses from his class have confirmed. And while the suspect did indeed provide a doctor's note excusing him from class, experts in identifying handwriting have confirmed that the note is indeed a forgery by the suspect himself. This proves both of the suspect's statements in his defense to be false, and therefore he must be guilty. This example and this dialogue both prove, I hope, that looking at things analytically and finding the evidence before you make your claims is a much stronger defense or a much stronger explanation than trying to look at things critically. I hope that you can find ways to use this in all of your future writing and to further develop your analytical thinking skills. For now, read well and write strong, and I'll see you next time.